Well, hi, I'm Kaylen Jackson. I'm one of the owners and vice chairs at the Indianapolis Colts. And I have been the one championing our campaign and initiative of Kicking the Stigma. I'm so excited to be here today. It feels like it's been a long road to get here, but really it's only been a couple months. We haven't even, entered into a year of our commitment in this mental health space. But today I'm super excited to have an amazing group of people with me. We have Carson, Daly, we have Darren Waller, we have Soloman, we have Hayden, Hurst, and our very own Darius Leonard. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about, why we're here and why our family and the Colts organization has really committed our time and money and energy into this cause. So we started Kicking the Stigma in 2020. We had planned to start it before the pandemic began. But really, as we all know, the pandemic has definitely made this issue that much more important. There's so many more people struggling. And we really wanted to use our platform and our horseshoe and our brand to raise awareness about mental health disorders and frankly, the mental health crisis in this country. And one of our main goals is to remove the shame and the stigma that unfortunately so often comes with being diagnosed with a mental health illness. Our family, personally, I've struggled with anxiety my whole life. It's no secret that my dad has struggled with substance use issues and is recovering and doing great. But it affects all of us in one way or another. And it's something really personal to us. So I just kind of wanted to start with thanking each and every one of you for being here. I just hope that you know the impact and the positive change you guys have already made just simply by sharing your story and telling people that it's okay to not be okay and that it's okay to go through struggles in life like these and that it's okay to seek help. You've made such an impact already. And I really feel that you guys being here today is going to be that much more impactful to people who see this, hopefully around the world. So I just want to thank you guys and tell you that each and every one of your stories evoked such emotion out of me. And so many people that I talked to about your guys' stories and your willingness to be so vulnerable and find that strength in vulnerability is really beautiful. And I think you guys have really wrapped your arms around being mental health advocates, which is so admirable. And I think such a good representation for so many kids who look up to you all. So thank you. I can't say it enough. And, we really hope that this discussion, this roundtable, and our whole week of Kicking the Stigma really inspires people to look into their own communities. Because I think a lot of people may think, we're the Colts and yet we have multiple other players around the league participating in this event. But I think it's such a beautiful representation of what we're hoping to inspire through this campaign, which is that it really takes all of us working together to create real change in the mental health space. So I'm really excited about this today and I can't wait to hear your guys' discussion. I know it's going to be very meaningful and impactful to so many. So without further ado, I want to introduce our host for today, Carson Daly from The Voice and the Today Show. He has been very open himself about his struggles with anxiety and mental health, and has really become a mental health advocate. And most recently, a friend of mine, we actually just recently both joined the board of Project Healthy Minds, which is very much centered around the anti-stigma campaign and also creating a digital marketplace to find mental health services. So I'm so excited to have him here today. And I really think that this is going to be an amazing discussion. So thank you, Carson. Thank you, Darius, Soloman, Hayden, Darren, so much from the bottom of my heart and from my family and the entire Colts organization. We're just so happy to have you here today.
Oh, well, thank you, Kaylen. That was such a nice intro. I don't know how I'm going to follow all of that, but let me just put it right back to you and to tell you and your family and the Colts organization from the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking a leadership role in this space of mental health as it pertains, especially to NFL players. And I'm glad that God brought us sort of together for you to even ask me to host this event. So I'm really, really honored to be here. And honestly, I have to commend the Colts organization for just taking the lead and getting these guys. Darius, obviously you're a Colt, but to get the other guys from other NFL teams to be a part of this sort of Colts Kicking the Stigma campaign, I think really speaks volume about where this potentially could go for everybody to have this discussion. So thank you to the Irsay family, to the Colts organization, and Kaylen, to you. So I appreciate it. I'll just kick it off by saying for the fellas here, just a little bit about me. So, if you don't know exactly if I'm not just the guy that you might see on NBC, I'm one of the tens of millions of people that have suffered in silence with mental health. I didn't know it at the time, but I spent decades really thinking I was broken. And I finally got some therapy and started to understand the model of anxiety and panic attacks, which is sort of my jam. And it really, this whole thing for me to do stuff like this just kind of broke wide open publicly recently. Being on the Today Show, we did a story on Kevin Love from Minnesota, and Kevin had written an article for the Players Tribune about a panic attack he'd had during an NBA game. And as I read it and we did the story on the air, I was really moved because he had the exact same he thought he was dying. And I had this exact same panic attack back in the day when I was hosting an episode of TRL, which was like American Bandstand for kids in the 2000s. I had a panic attack during a live show, much like Kevin did during an NBA game, where he went running into the locker room, scared like a baby with your heart beating out of your chest. And I was so impressed and moved by his writing of that article and his ability to come out and be so vulnerable. And I was such a fan of his that it really moved me to utilize what little platform I have to not be afraid to speak up. And so in turn, I ended up telling kind of my story on the Today Show, and really since then have tried really hard. It's felt like, this is the work that God has really, aside from all the music and all the TV and all the accolades and all the stuff I've done, the work that I'm doing now in this space of mental health and awareness and wellness, and to share my story and to help be a conduit for like you fellas to share yours and have these discussions.
Darius Leonard has dealt with depression, anxiety, and panic attacks since the untimely and tragic death of his brother and best friend, Kevonte. Following his death, Darius described his world as a dark blur, one with a goal to just make it through the day. During his redshirt freshman season at South Carolina State, he started spiraling. He wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating, and was experiencing chest pains. He describes his anxiety as not just a mental pain, but an excruciatingly physical pain. As he continues to fight through the pain and anxiety that continues today, Darius has been outspoken about the strength of family and the benefits of poetry to help him through difficult times.
Darius, by the way, your article in Players Tribune was one of the most powerful things I've ever read. So thank you for writing that, and thank you for being here today.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Hayden Hurst has publicly shared his battle with depression and his attempted suicide. He began to experience anxiety at the start of an unproductive minor league baseball career. As he made the transition to college football at the University of South Carolina, his depression continued, and he turned to alcohol and drugs, which led to a suicide attempt in January of 2016. Hayden began the healing process through the strength of his family, therapy, and journaling, and created the Hayden Hurst Family Foundation in 2018 to focus on mental health awareness and suicide prevention.
Hayden Hurst, Atlanta Falcons, tight end. Man, your story is incredible. The work that you and your mom are doing with your foundation, kudos to you on that. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you today too, Hayden. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Appreciate you having me on.
Devastated by the loss of his best friend and older sister, Ella, who died by suicide, Soloman Thomas fought depression as his family endured unbearable pain. Thomas is honoring his sister by dedicating himself to fighting the nation's mental health crisis. Specifically, his goal is to end the stigma related to mental health and addiction challenges.
I'm sorry, fellas. I'm a diehard Raiders fan. It just worked out. The two of our four panelists happen to be from my Las Vegas Raiders, which is still hard to say. But Soloman Thomas, defensive end, going to shape up our D this year. Your story about your sister, your impact, your willingness to come out. I think the work that you're doing, Soloman, is so moving and so powerful. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carson. It's an honor to be here.
Darren Waller has talked openly about substance abuse issues early in his NFL career. He was suspended for violating league policy on 2 occasions and was plotting a means to sabotage his way out of the league. In 2017, Darren entered rehab. It changed his life and his football career forever. He's made the most of his next opportunity as he was named to the Pro Bowl this past season as a member of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Darren Waller, you have one of the more public stories out there in the NFL, one of the greatest, I think, human turnaround stories of all time, not just in sport, but in general. I appreciate your time, and what a great story. So thank you for your willingness to share and be here today.
No, it's awesome to be here with these guys today. I appreciate you having me.
All right, so let's just kind of jump into discussion. Let me start with today, Darius. Let me start with you because you're the Indianapolis Colt here, and this is their Kicking the Stigma campaign. When you get the call to do something like this, why is it important? What is it about your story? Why do you want it to open up and be vulnerable?
Because for one, I know I'm not the only one. I know that, the pain and things that, that I've been through, I know there's a lot of people who's out there suffering, and, it was a tough road for me. And I mean, it still is a tough road. And, each day get, tougher and tougher. And, I just feel like, the more you talk about it, the more free that you can be. And, with my brother's birthday just being, this past Friday, just a lot of emotions, a lot of them things, it popped back in my mind that, this is hard. This is a hard road. And I just, just coming back up here on this panel and just finally to be able to, is release all my emotions, tell people my story, and realize that I'm not the only person who's going through this. And if I can come out here and I can talk about it, I know that mentally, physically, and emotionally, I know that's going to help me out a whole lot. You never know who is going to touch. And, people see all the NFL guys or whoever, people that they look up to, they out here, they talking about mental health. That's going to give them the opportunity, or give them the courage that they need to say, okay, I'm going to do the same exact thing, because, just keeping all the emotions inside, you can go into a very, very dark place. And, I don't ever want to go back there. I mean, it's tough, but you got to be able to, find a way, find your free spirit. If that's talking to someone, is listening to music, or, writing everything down. A lot of people don't like to talk about it, but, to get it off your chest, just find a way. You can write an email to yourself. You can write something. I know when I was in high school, I wrote poems, about my brother and about, all the things that I've been through. So I know it's important to me. So that's why I think it's important for us to come out and just be free to talk about it, and free to let other people know that it's okay to not be okay, but you got to find a way to fight through and find a way to get some help.
Amen, Darius. It's so well said. And Soloman, I've seen you speak really well to the idea of this perception that Darius brought up. You guys are Sunday American gladiators. You're impenetrable to pain. It's everything that is the reputation of a professional athlete, especially at the highest level in the NFL. But that's not necessarily what's going on inside your body. Soloman, if you could speak to the idea of what we could do better to help change the perception of people in general.
There's a lot of things we can do better, but, Darius hit on it. The biggest thing we can do is talk and to be vulnerable. When I speak, I talk about the power of vulnerability, because that's when you can connect with someone. When you tell someone how you're really feeling, and you tell, hey, I'm feeling anxious, I feel it, I feel depression, I feel sad, I feel awkward, weird, whatever it is, you open up to that person, you let them speak their truths. And then you create a greater connection that you both may have never felt before, and you keep talking, you keep that conversation going. Like Darius said, we're all feeling these things. Like, we're all human. Like, we're all going to feel anxiety, depression, ups and downs in life. So it's important to talk about it. It's important to normalize being a human being, and part of that is feeling our emotions, riding with them, honoring them, and that's what we need to do. Especially as these big, strong, tough athletes, as gladiators, as you say. I have my dream job. I'm big and tough, but that's not what makes me tough. What makes me tough is to be vulnerable. To tell someone how I'm truly feeling. It's kind of easy to go day to day and be like, hey, I'm fine, I'm okay, all that. But, to be strong is to tell someone, hey, I'm not feeling okay today. I'm feeling sad. It doesn't mean you have to feel bad for me. It just means I'm letting you know, and we can talk about it. So, those are ways that we can really keep moving forward and taking that next step. So, I hope to lead the charge and continue to do so.
Well, you're doing it, man. You're definitely doing it. There's an alarming stat I read recently that, and we're all athletes here. That was basically when from the moment somebody experiences a mental health symptom of any kind, from that moment to when they finally go and get some sort of help, the time span in between that, you know how long it is? It's 11 years. Wow. Think about if 5 of us played pickup hoops and someone landed on their ankle pad. You think we'd wait 11 years to go to urgent care to see if it was broken or not? So at some point, and Hayden, you can jump in here, we need to we need to start thinking about, as my friend Marshawn Lynch would say, our mentals as something like physical. Like how prevalent is that, Hayden, in the NFL? Are we making strides there?
I think we're making up ground. Like Soloman was just saying, we're perceived as these gladiators on the field. We're these robots. We're supposed to go out there every single Sunday with no aches or pains and perform at a high level, for 3 hours. And you're colliding with other guys and you're banging your body up. And like you said, you come off the field with a high ankle sprain and you're treated instantly.
Right.
You come off the field and you say, hey man, I'm kind of not feeling right upstairs, or like I'm having panic attacks before games. If you say that, it's kind of like, whoa, man. So I think we're definitely making strides when people come out with panels like this and we're talking about our mental health and talking about experiences. Because shoot, this morning, my anticipatory anxiety was eating me up just getting on here and talking to you guys.
Yeah, me too.
Sweating, my palms are sweating. I don't feel right. But then I get on and I read your story, Carson, and I read Solomon's story, and I read Darius's and Darren's, and I can relate to it. And it helps me get up here and just speak from the heart. And it's all these stories are so relatable. And I promise you, mental health affects everybody on this planet in some way, shape, or form. It does not discriminate. It doesn't care your gender, your age, or what race you are. It does not discriminate and affects us all. So panels like these are awesome to get up here and talk and speak from the heart. And I'm honored to be here on here with you guys.
That is so awesome. And Darren, yours is sort of new in the sense that you can speak to kind of before and after a snapshot in your professional career. In just the last 4 or 5 years, how are we trending, let's say in the NFL, as it pertains to dealing with players who want to be vocal about their mental health?
I think we're trending in a positive direction for sure, starting with these guys in this panel. But yeah, I think we're just realizing the power of the mind and that everything stems from there. I feel like my greatest weapon when I step on the field today is my mind, is my ability to be calm and execute and not have to, be a people pleaser anymore. I felt like before, in my darkest days, I felt like I always had to please people, or I had to go to some external source to make me feel better, whether it was a bottle or some drugs or to women. I didn't realize that it could start within me as long as I was willing to face the nasty and ugly parts about myself, about my thinking, about my heart that I didn't necessarily like. And once I started to do that, I realized that there's power on the other side. That feeling that I was searching for can come from me and within me. I didn't have to go to somebody else or any other source. So I feel like guys are realizing that now, because this game takes a lot from us, life takes a lot from us, and we have to find ways to fill our own cup. And we're getting closer and closer to, having everybody have the resources to do that.
How much, Darius, going back to parenting for a quick second, my dad died when I was 5. My mom remarried, and I always say God blessed me with 2 wonderful fathers. My stepdad ended up being my hero, but he was a tough guy. He was a big guy. He rubbed some dirt on it. He wouldn't shun my feelings away, but he certainly wouldn't solicit them either. And therefore, I never really spoke to anybody. I had no real alpha male figure in my life. And I wondered, for me, it wasn't until I started, it sounds like a stupid answer. People say, well, what do you do? Where's the first step? And we all said it independently. We all said the very first step is just talking about it. And that sounds cliche, but like you said, Hayden, when I started talking about it, I was talking to a friend of mine who suffered from anxiety, and I was describing it. I didn't know anxiety was actually a thing, because my dad made it sound like it was just, bull, quite frankly, that it's not a real diagnosis. It was just I don't know. And so finally my buddy was like, no, you have anxiety. It's a thing, you should talk to somebody. And that's when my light bulb went off, and I ended up in cognitive therapy, really understanding the model of anxiety, fight or flight, needing to leave a room. I still have to sit on the aisle on the airplane. I realize now in hindsight, Monday morning quarterback, no pun intended, that I've been anxious my entire life. In fact, I think God hardwired me this way on purpose. And I also think there's benefits to it. The ultra sensitivity that I have, for instance, when I listen to music, I'm extremely moved by the power of music. But Darius, I wondered about like growing up, or like, what did you learn from the people in your life about how to talk about your feelings that you'll do differently maybe as a father?
Being in an African-American household, that was things that, we didn't do. I was in a single parent house. My mom had 9 kids, and, my mom worked 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And, you see her down, you see her struggle with things, but she never mentioned that, she needed any help. She never mentioned that, I need someone to talk to, and at that time, that's when I was like, I just got to be tough. My mom is out here doing everything she can to make ends meet, and she's not complaining not one time. So when my brother died, it was like, okay, I got to be tough. I got to make sure that, everybody around me is okay, because that's what my mama taught me. She made sure that all her kids and everybody was, they were safe, they made sure they was good. So once my brother died, I was like, I'm going to be the same way. I'll make sure everybody's okay. And then my senior year, it was like, I started losing so much weight. I went to the hospital twice because of panic attacks, which, I didn't know anything about panic attacks at all. And then, I got to a point where I was like, I was shutting everybody down, and I said, I got to figure something out. And then I knew that my passion was to write poems. That's something that I felt like I was getting all my emotions out. I felt like I was getting better. And then it didn't hit me until I went to college. I went to college, I was away from the family. And then in 2015, that's when things really took a turn. That's when in spring, I had this pain in my chest that I really couldn't take anymore. And they put me in the hospital, and I had to stay the night in the hospital. I had to wear this heart monitor for 35 days. And then I had to get an ablation done on my heart, one of my heart valves. And they were saying that it was all because of stress. And that's when I was like, I got to change, because I know what the pain that my brother death did to my family. And I knew that I didn't want to, fall in that trap. I didn't want to cause any pain to my family. So I said, the first person I turned to was my wife now, but my girlfriend at the time. And she was the only person that, I really could trust, because we was in kindergarten together. We grew up together. So she knew everything about me. And I knew that she wasn't going to judge me because of what I've been through. And, talking to her, that really opened it up. And then next thing I had to go talk to a therapist. And, at first the therapist wasn't my thing. You have this thing in your mind, say, I'm going to give out a little bit. I don't trust him. I don't trust her yet. And then I went to maybe 2 or 3 sessions, and I quit. And I was like, I can't do it. I cannot do it. So I was like, I'm going to find a way. I started talking to my family, something that I never thought I would do, that, I never asked my brothers. I never asked my sisters, are they okay? They never asked me. And, I said, I'm going to start it up. And I made sure I let them know that, my feelings that I was holding in, losing my brother, knowing that how much he meant to me, how much he meant to the family. And I said, I know if I'm feeling this way, I know my other brothers and sisters are feeling the same way. So just talking to them, and, now with me having a child, that really opened my eyes. It's like, okay, I got to make sure that I'm putting her in the best position. I'm making sure that, when I talk to her, I'm showing her all the emotions. And when she falls or anything, I'm making sure that she knows if something's hurt, tell me. And, now that I see it, firsthand, I will make sure that I let them know when we're struggling. We're struggling. I'll make sure to let them know that it's okay to struggle, but you got to find a way to get through. You got to find a way to ask for help, and it's okay to ask for help. So I'm gonna just make sure as a parent, that's my goal, to let my kids know that it's okay. You don't have to be the tough guy. It's okay, for one, to talk to your parents, because your parents probably they probably know that something's wrong, but they probably don't want to ask if something's wrong, because they have that fear that their child is hurting. They have that fear that they don't want to know that, okay, their child is going through mental problems, because for one, they probably don't even know anything about the mental health issue. So I'm just gonna make sure that my family and my kids know that it's okay. And I'm gonna be an advocate to let them know that mental health is real, and let them know that if they see signs from me or their friends, it's okay to ask them, are they okay? Because, a lot of people in this world, they don't want to really have that conversation to a true friend to say, hey, something about you isn't right.
Right.
And people are scared to actually say that. So I'm gonna make sure that they know that it's okay to be that friend and say, you need some help.
Right. I think people are scared of the idea of being crazy. There could be a generational thing. I'm much older than you guys, but in my generation, our parents talk, oh, there was a crazy, people didn't want to be, the crazy one. And I'll tell you, and Darren, I'm going to go at you on this. I had a crazy moment when I was talking to my doctor, just my regular doctor, about getting on. I was telling her about my anxieties years ago. And she was like, well, let's try this antidepressant. And then she was writing the prescription in her office talking to me. She actually said to me, she goes, and she leaned in, she goes, and if I were you, I wouldn't tell people in your community that you're on this because they're going to think you're crazy. Now, this is coming from a health professional. Talk about a stigma. So, Darren, when you finally decided to get some help and go away, how hard was it for you to make that decision?
It was very hard. When I went to finally go get some help for real, I was coming off an overdose, and still, even after that, my thinking and which turned into my addiction to drugs and alcohol, I still didn't feel like I really needed help. I still felt like I had to put on masks, even though I was at the knocking on death's door pretty much. But it was hard to kind of step away from things, because as human beings, we feel like we need to be grinding at all times. We always need to be working, no sleep, like tirelessly, pursuing something. But I had to go away for, almost 40 days and just be still. And, but by doing that, I realized, okay, I'm willing to invest this time into me now. I'm planting to see that it's not about how I perform. It's not about how I look to other people. My biggest priority is taking care of myself, because how could I be of any service to this world if I'm not of service to myself? So it was definitely tough for my ego, you know what I'm saying? Like going, being in the league for a couple of years before that, and, having to go into this facility and people looking at me like, why are you here? Shouldn't you be on a field somewhere? And it's like, it hurts. Like those are body blows, but you realize that, that's not really what life is about. If, I had all these things, I had these contracts, got drafted, was on a team, but I was miserable. I had all these things that checked off the boxes for success, but somehow I was sitting there, just depressed. And, I, was contemplating like, hey, death would be easier than this. But to go there and to invest that time into myself ended up being the best decision I ever made, even though I kind of went in kicking and screaming. Now I can look back on it and realize taking time away from that schedule that never ends and never stops to just focus on yourself is the best thing you could ever do.
I think about young people today, Darren, and I was thinking about you because, hip hop was different when I was growing up, but a lot of the lyrics, I have a 12-year-old son who listens to a lot of it. There's a lot of pill pop. There's a lot of Xanny, a lot of perk, a lot of that kind of, and the internet. We do stories now at NBC News of young people, teenagers, almost getting like a DoorDash delivery of pills. And I mean, that's all stuff that's in your wheelhouse. What do you tell young people who maybe think it's okay to kind of pop something or try something? Or, I mean, you almost, you took fentanyl or whatever. I mean, that could have taken your life sitting in your car that day.
Right. I would tell people to think a little bit deeper than the surface, because a lot of people think popping something or drinking is like, it's having fun. And in the beginning stages, it could be fun. It could be an experience for you to let loose and numb everything out. But subconsciously, you're telling yourself that you, at your base, at your core, is not enough. I need to change in order for me to feel good. And if you're sending that message to yourself, that's not love. That's not loving yourself. That's not taking care of your mind. So I was telling them to look at it a little bit deeper and look at the compromise there. You're compromising yourself. You're compromising your integrity to maybe fit in. Like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to fit in. So that's why I went into that realm, that partying aspect. So I would just tell young people just to look at it a little bit different, just bet on yourself. Like who you are at the end of the day, whether you're different than everybody, whether you don't fit in or not, like that's going to be to your benefit in the long run. So don't be so quick to compromise that and just want to fit in and do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, good idea. Great words there, Darren. Soloman, we lose almost 50,000 people in this country to suicide every year. And I'm thinking about, we all know somebody, and I'm thinking about, again, that person in despair, the person who, is in pain, and if they're watching this and they're inspired by your story or any of the guys' stories here, what words do you offer somebody who's in that dark place?
It's definitely a tough situation, but you always just want to tell them that you love them. Be like, hey, I'm here. It's a safe place. You can trust me. You can be honest with me. Because there's nothing perfect to say. We always want to. That's why some people are afraid to ask people or go to people who are struggling, because we want to say the perfect thing to fix them. You're not going to say the perfect thing to fix them.
Right.
Those people, they feel alone. They want to feel something. They want to feel love. They want to feel understand it's going to be okay, and to let people know, hey, it's going to be okay. I'm here for you. That you're loved, you're needed, like you're wanted in this world, like you're so special. You have so much to offer. And that's what I just try to tell people. Because I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just someone who. I'm a survivor. I'm someone who's lost someone to suicide, someone who meant the world to them, and I think it's just important to tell people, that, they're meant to be here, that they're loved, that there's help out there, that there's a future for them, that they can make this world a better place.
How do we reprogram guys, though? There could be guys who go, yeah, man, Soloman, that's cool, but that's corny, man. I don't talk like that. Like, I don't talk to my boys. The real question is when you see somebody, you're like, yo, what's up? You good? Like, that's on the surface, right? The real question is one question deeper. It's like, no, yo, are you okay? Are you really okay? So we need to get people, young people in particular, men perhaps, who have that macho attitude. I mean, all you guys are so strong. You're the strongest people I know. You're some of the most vulnerable people I know. And the duality of that is so powerful. It's just like, you guys are Avengers to me. Like, you're superheroes. How do we get more, young men in particular, and certainly everybody, to be more vulnerable and to I guess break their own ego and really check in on someone?
Yeah, like you said, like, it's tough. People will say that's corny and whatever, but as corny as life is, that's what you have to do. Like, you have the follow-up question, like, how are you? Like, how really are you? Like, are you actually good? And like,
right.
But the biggest thing, like, is like nowadays, these young kids, they want to talk about mental health. They know about mental health. The one of the struggling parts is our parents, the older ages, like, because that's the age where you, like you said, your stepfather, he would say, rub some dirt on it,
right.
He would like try to make you feel bad about your anxiety, like that kind of stuff, like that. Those are the people who we're really trying to connect with right now. And, we're trying to make sure that they understand how to talk to their kids about it, how to be a safe place for their kids. We're like older mentors, whether you're a coach, teacher, business mentor, whatever, janitor, whatever you are, like, find ways to let people be vulnerable and make, like I said earlier, normalize being human. The more that we can talk about our feelings and our emotions, the more we can be real with each other, the more the stress is going to go away, the more all the, the pitter pattering back and forth, that's like BS, like all that will go away. Like the real stuff, we'll have these real conversations and we'll grow and we'll be our true self. And when we can all be our true self, we're going to make the world a better place.
Yeah. That's powerful, right? That's the captain of a football team. That's your leader. Mm-hmm. If I'm a coach, that's the guy I want. If I'm a coach, I'm not, players are worried about going to coach or trainers and saying, hey, man, I got something going on up here. That might show weakness. Maybe they lose their slot, their position, whatever. But like, if I'm a coach, I'm thinking like you. I'm thinking, that's the guy I want. Someone who's in touch with his feelings, knows the invisible things that are hard to pinpoint, wants to get better, get stronger. He's like reading a defense. Like, he's reading himself. That's self-aware. Soloman, is that an attribute we are seeing more of in the NFL? We need to do a better job of that.
Definitely. Darren hit on it earlier. He says his mental is now one of his greatest parts of his game now. And, the more that you can be in touch with your mental and like, there was a player, there was another tight end who came out. I think it was Mercedes Lewis. He came out a few weeks ago and he was talking about one of the greatest parts of his game, why he's been able to play 10 plus years in the NFL is because every day he wakes up and he spends time working on his mental game. Your mental game can be the strongest part. To be in those tough moments and be like, hey, I accept that bad play, but now I'm going to change the scenario, or I accept what happened. I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm going to make it into something great. Having those attributes or being able to feel your emotions and go to therapy or journal and stuff and be at your best mentally. Because like we were talking about earlier, it's not just mental health, it's a whole health. Like, we're all connected. After my sister died by suicide, that season, I felt like I was running in sand. I felt like I was just so messed up. I felt like I was weak, slow, everything. And then I started going to therapy in October, and I finished the last 6 games of the year, the best I played that year. I'm not saying I was the best, but the best I played that year. Mm-hmm. And I felt great. Like, I felt free. And, you know, during a season, you can't get bigger, faster, stronger, more explosive. You know, it's impossible. We're training too much. But just me working on my mental.
Unlock your mind.
That let my body free. So the more we can teach players that the stronger your mind is, the more free you let your mind be, and the more you can like be at peace with your emotions, the more your body is going to work, the better it's going to be. Because when mind's free, the body's free, and you're going to be the best athlete you can be. And if we teach guys the whole health more, especially athletes, they'll understand that, they'll use that, and they'll be way better than they think they can be. You can unlock, you can unleash a whole new power. Like you said, Avengers, you can unleash a whole new superpower.
Right, totally. It almost seems like at the combine, there'll be tests for your mental. And if you score high on that, that might help you on draft day. You know, we start to look at it like that. Like this guy's report card is great physically, he's off the charts. But you know what? He's also off the charts mentally. We hear about quarterbacks and whatnot, reading D. Yeah. But like all players, like, can this guy come back from a bad game? Can he have an adverse moment in his life and bounce back on a Sunday? Yeah, I mean, he's tough. He's dealt with it before. That's interesting. You know, Hayden, you had a great moment where you went up to Dak on the field and you said to him, and I'll paraphrase, something about, you know, he had spoken up about suicide in the family, and you chased him down, man. It was cool. And like, you were like, I guess you were mic'd up. I don't know how we saw it. And I just tell me about that moment and what it meant to have, you know, such a high profile figure like Dak for the Dallas Cowboys, who was willing to talk about this area of speech publicly.
Yeah, it ended up being a really cool moment for me and Dak and for really everybody. I mean, the feedback that I got after that kind of innocent moment between me and him was just incredible. It really started with earlier in the week, I saw him kind of getting some scrutiny for coming out and telling his story and stuff that had happened to him during COVID and in quarantine and everything. He got backlash for it. And I was like, first of all, to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, to have that platform, you're already scrutinized enough. To come out and talk about your mental health and say how it's affected you, to get scrutinized for that, I thought was totally just outrageous. And when the moment actually happened, I forgot that I was mic'd up, but I'm glad that I was. And I went over to him and I was like, hey, man, I saw you come out and talk about your mental health and how it affected you. I have so much respect for you. You know, I'm always going to be a Dak fan. And then it kind of blew up from there, but I'm glad it did because of the conversations that it sparked. You know, my DMs filled up with stories about people telling me, you know, their mental health and how it affected themselves or their brother or their cousin. And that's what I love doing stuff like that, like this, getting on panels and talking about it, because I truly think when people see things like this, they pinpoint stories or moments in Solomon's story or Darius's story or Darren's or mine, and they go, oh, wait, he went through that and now in the NFL, you know, well, I can turn my life around. So that's why I continue to tell my story and get up here with these guys and just talk about it, because I know that people relate to them and it opens them up more and they're more willing to talk about their feelings and how mental health affects them in their lives.
I mean, I've been on television almost every day since like 1997 through MTV and all the things that I've done on NBC. And the minute just a few years ago when I really started doing a deep dive on mental health and putting myself out there and shining a light, I mean, I have this digital series called Mind Matters where I'm just interviewing people on Zoom during the pandemic who are doing great work. You know, my friend Darius Smith started a free group therapy in the Black community where he lives called Black Space. He's doing great work. All these great stories. That's coming back with PTSD. And, you know, when I go out in public now, it's like Fight Club. It's like the movie. Like I've been a part of the American fabric of television for years. Like no one can give a crap about any of that. And I love it. Like you said, like I feel better after this hour talking, like I'll feel mentally better. This is like my therapy, but more people come up to me and say, you know, hey, you know, I really appreciate you talking about, you know, the anxiety, the mental, I've got a, you know, me or my kid, or it's absolutely, Darren, does it ever, I can't imagine the kind of reaction you get from your fans and from the public because your story's been so public. How does that make you feel?
I mean, there's honestly no greater feeling than that now. Like a touchdown doesn't compare, you know, setting a record or anything like that doesn't compare, honestly, because I've realized now in turning my life around that, you know, the best thing I can do is be of service to somebody else. And now it's like if somebody can look at my story and be like, man, like his life was messed up, but he still, you know, laces up every day for that fight in his mind and in his spirit, you know, and that inspires somebody else and it cuts a light on for them. That just like, I mean, that gets me going. Like that just like, I can't even explain it, but that's the greatest feeling from it. And no matter what happens in my football career from here on out, I'm grateful for this platform because it's been able to help other people realize that, what's going on in their head and their mind isn't the final say. It's not the end all be all for them, that they can rewrite their own story and they can do something about it.
Yeah, I love that, man. You got a chance to press like a reset button when you went and did your thing. Hayden, you got a chance to press that reset button. Thank God. That's powerful. And the Indianapolis Colts, this organization to kick off this week, this Kicking the Stigma, is really cool of them and big of them. And it's big of you guys on other teams to come together, talk about this. But it doesn't surprise me because of Coach Tony Dungy and what a high-class character he was is coach for the Colts for 11 years. Now he's my colleague at NBC Sports. But I want to play you guys a clip you can watch your screen of Coach Dungy.
I think I really did a good job of telling the players, my door is always open. Come in and see me about anything. Come in and see any of our coaches about anything. We want you to be the best that you can be on the field and off the field. You can be as tough as anyone physically, and you can be able to play with a broken leg or a broken arm and go out there and everybody's going to marvel at that. But you know what? Mental injuries are just as debilitating.
Pretty cool there. Darius, let me go to you because you're a Colt. Do you feel that is that the general attitude across the league? Are they all like Coach Dungy or not? We're not there yet.
I'm not going to say – I don't think we're all there yet, because there's – like you see Tony, he's out there. He's telling everybody off rip, my mental is messed up. Then if you have something wrong with yours, you can come in. And not every coach like that. A lot of coaches – well, I'm not going to say a lot, a few coaches that, that's in the league, they'd be like, okay, you're here to play ball. We don't need you to come in to be a distraction. And I thank God every day that I was drafted to the Indianapolis Coach Frank and all the coaching staff there, they're all advocates of, come in my office. My door is always open. We have Brian Decker on staff. We have David Thornton, and you can easily just walk in and tell them everything that's going on. And they can keep it between them, and it's like, it's free. Everything is there at that facility, and you don't have to worry about anybody, going back, telling anything or having that fear in your mind that, if I show any weakness, I'm gonna get cut from this team. So I'm just glad, that the Indianapolis coaches, starting this thing up, and hopefully a lot of more coaches and a lot of more organizations, take that step, take that step and say, okay, guys, we're here. We're here for you guys. We're not just here as football players. We care for your mental. We care for your human being. So I'm just thankful that, we started this thing, and hopefully a lot of more can follow the lead.
Soloman, I don't know if what's happening between the NFL and the Players Association. I don't know how any of that works, but conversations behind the scenes. Do you think we are trending in the right direction for this great sport, to where the NFL and the players can come together and come up with some sort of mental health? You obviously need more resources. And by the way, not just for you as players, but for your families. Do you see that happening in the future?
I do. And the NFL and the PA came up with a great initiative, I think, a couple of years ago, which allowed, therapy options, for players and their families. And, I thought it was amazing. But I think we need to push it. That came out, but I think we need to push it more on players so they understand that it's out there, it's available. And, actually last week we had a wellness ambassador meeting for the PA, and it was just 5-6 guys talking about what the NFL can do better for players, for their families. And I think that's incredible. And I just think we need to continue to do that. I was very blessed, my time with the 49ers, they're very encouraging of me getting help, my family getting help. And, they honestly saved our lives in many ways, and we owe them forever for that. And, but we need more organizations like that create, environment in the community where you can be free and you can be open, with your coaches, because your coaches should be your mentors. They should be people you look up to, people you can be honest with. And your coaches should want that themselves. They should want you to be open and honest with you so they can get the best out of you. So, any way we can, continue to remind players of the help the NFL has for the players and their families, it will be great. And, we're definitely working on ways to make sure that we have more opportunities and more resources available for players, families, and loved ones.
All right, guys, I thought we'd switch it up and have a little fun. We sent you each a picture of a much younger you. You have it in front of you. I'm going to ask you to pull it out right now. And Darius, I'll start with you. Take a look at that young man, and what advice would you give him?
I would tell him, to open his mouth, just tell him that, it's okay to tell people that you're hurting and tell them that you're okay and release his feelings. And, don't keep anything inside, because, that's the only thing that's doing is it's hurting you. It's hurting you mentally, physically, and emotionally. But deep down, you thinking that, it's actually helping others because, you're young, you're dumb, you think that, if you open your mouth early, you feel like you put more stress on someone else. But just looking at his picture, seeing the smile on this young kid's face, just let him know that, hey, it's okay. It's okay, to go tell your mom that you're feeling some type of way. It's okay to tell them that your feelings are hurt, and it's okay to reach out for help.
Very good. Hayden Hurst, you're up. Look at that young Hayden right there. What would you tell him?
I would say buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride, but everything that you go through in your life is going to lead you to where you're meant to be. Approach everything with hard work because it's going to pay off. And, when you're feeling off and you're having those days, reach out to your family because they're there for you and they want to see you succeed. They truly do. And I know you're going to want to feel tough and like you don't want to talk about it, but the best thing that you'll ever do is open up to them because all four of y'all will just become that much closer.
Well, that's cool, man. Well said. Soloman.
I'll tell this kid, I'll hold it up too.
Let me see.
I look silly.
Oh, good God. What is that, a koala?
It's a koala, yeah. We used to live in Australia.
That's great. What would you tell that young man, knowing what you know now?
I would tell him to keep that smile and hold it strong. I would tell him to love himself and love himself unconditionally. It took me 25 years to truly love myself, and I wake up every morning now and I tell myself, and I write in my journal, it's one of my affirmations, I love myself unconditionally. Love every bit of you, the flaws, the great things, the in-between things, love them all. And I'll tell him, to, be vulnerable with his emotions, connect with everyone and, spread that love in your heart to everyone around you. Love your family, love the ones close to you, and be optimistic about every difficult opportunity you go through. That's when you learn the most, and the hard times, learn that you're learning the most in those hard times, and take something optimistic out of those difficult times.
Well said, man. Well said. Good advice for everybody. D. Waller, you're up. Let me see it.
Yeah,
there he is.
I would tell this big-headed kid just to bet on yourself. There's no need for you to go through this life putting on masks, trying to fit in every room that you go into. If you stay true to yourself, everything that you're searching for is going to come and connect with you at the right time. There's nobody else that you need to be. I feel like everything that's about you that may be different or weird to other people is what's going to set you apart and allow you to shine a light in this world in a way that nobody else can. So I would just tell him to bet on himself.
I'd definitely bet on that big-headed kid. That's for damn sure. I'll do mine quickly. I was a goofy-looking kid in Los Angeles. As I look back at my childhood, losing my dad so young, and my mom lost her husband and her mother in the same year, I think that set off a chain reaction of a thought that I would have that would go into my adulthood. And that thought was a worry thought. And it was, are you going to be okay? I think I had that thought, and it makes me scared to think about that, the unsurety of, am I going to be okay? And I still ask myself that question off and on, but I would tell my younger self that you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay because you're going to surround yourself. God's going to bless you with great family and friends, and things will be tough and there'll be lots of questions to be asked, but your faith is going to drive you right to the place where you need to believe if you just kind of let go. And you're going to be okay. And I think for people who are struggling, at the end of the day, that's kind of the question, no matter what the area of mental health that they ponder with, there's this idea that they're broken and that they're not okay, but you are okay. And like all of us have said a million times on this panel, it's okay to not be okay. In fact, later, when you're an Avenger like one of these guys, it'll be the thing that you point to that, in a weird way, was meant to happen, that made you the Pro Bowler that you are now. So Anyway, fellas, I can't thank you enough for just the session. I could talk all day, but I know you guys are busy. So Darren, thank you. Hayden, Darius, Soloman, you guys are my heroes. Keep up the good work, the good fight. And I look forward to seeing you down the road.
Appreciate you, Carson.
Appreciate
All right.
it.
Thank you, Carson.
Thank you. Thank you. Kaylen Jackson, back to you. And thank you for the Kicking the Stigma program that the Colts and the Irsay family are kicking off here. That was a really enlightening conversation. I was grateful to be able to lead it. And we thank them. We certainly thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much. And, you know, I'm not talk about vulnerability. And I'm not ashamed to say that during this hour long that I have been brought to tears just by the beautiful conversation and, again, vulnerability and willingness to really go there. I just want you guys to know like how much this is going to mean to people and how much it means to me. I think, you know, our family, everything you guys are saying connects with me. So I can't imagine the people out there that are struggling silently and how much this is going to connect with them. You know, I find that my strength does come from my anxiety and my vulnerability, and the worst moments that our family has gone through have made us so strong, and being able to take that strength and share it with others is such a gift. And I just hope you guys remember that. And I really, truly believe that this is gonna spark conversation and create real change in a space that is so needed. And I just thank you guys so much for being a part of it. I really, truly do. And we, as a family and as an organization, are honored to be donating $3,000 to each of your organizations of choice. I know a bunch of you have foundations that are doing amazing work. And just please keep doing what you're doing. Please know that we're behind you, no matter what team you go to. You know, we're fans of yours, and we so appreciate you coming along with us on this journey today, and really kicking off our Kicking the Stigma fundraising week. We will be having so many different things going on, so many different interviews and conversations, and ways to help. And so we're really excited to have, of course, you guys participating, but we have, you know, a laundry list of amazing alumni and celebrities and influencers, ranging from Peyton Manning to Tony Dungy, as you've seen, Edgerrin James, Reggie Wayne, Jeff Saturday, Mike Epps, Jim Gaffigan, Cameron Crowe. The list goes on. And we're just so thankful for all the people who have been so willing. I think I've found that's what's so inspiring through all of this, is that this feels like something that everybody's been just under the surface wanting to talk about and wanting to help with. And I really hope that this is just the beginning of many years to come in terms of this initiative. And I hope that other teams and cities, you know, take this as a best practice and really adopt Kicking the Stigma for themselves and their own communities and neighborhoods. So thank you guys again so much. And I know we'll be in touch, but the amount of people who are going to be reaching out and sharing their stories and seeking help and getting better and are just going to be endless. So I hope you know that you truly did save lives today.